So thanks again. And as Preetham said, this is predominantly for networking. So I will leave good 5-7 minutes to ask 2-3 questions you would have. I will answer the easy 2 ones, and I will leave the third one for Dikshit, which will be the first one, right? Good. So thanks, and I wanted to start more on a personal note. I started this role just about 2 months before, and you as truly partners have contributed a lot to my personal success, right? Whatever I could do was because of tremendous growth we saw in India, that I was here for about 4 years. And that's where when Dikshit and me and Preetham and me were speaking, I'm on a personal visit to India, but I said I must go and meet all of you, right? Because we don't know when would next opportunity be. So thanks everyone for all the contributions you have made to me, as well as to, more importantly, Citrix. We really appreciate that. New world of work. I just going to use good 10-15 minutes to let you know how are we doing and where are we headed, right? As a company, because that's what matters to all of you in the business partnership moving forward. When you look at new world of work, and I'm just taking my example as the simplest example, and I'm sure you have the same example, and especially people staying in Bombay can take the scenario of being in traffic and wanting to work in the car. But when I'm looking at my work, right, it happens in 4 different places minimum, right? If I don't count airports and hotels and all of that. One is Singapore office, sometimes Mumbai office when I'm here, or Singapore hotel, or any other place that I choose to work, including home in India, right? And my demand of work as a user is that IT in the back end, right, should shape up to the way I work, right? Which is very, very different from how it has been when we were within the corporate environment, where it gets told to us how work will happen, right? Which applications we will have access to, which applications will not have access to, what are the security policies, and how we need to make sure that we obey, quote unquote, those security policies. I incidentally recently figured out that when I'm outside the Citrix firewall, through the private access technology that we have introduced, every time I access a new application, I need to do a token authentication. And it doesn't happen when I'm within the corporate office, right? Now, this is something 3 years before may have been rocket science, right? You would basically train the users and spend some time and things like that. Now it's all happening seamlessly, right? I have been given a token, and when it pops up, I'm just doing token authentication or biometric, whatever, right? So that's really the true world of work, and there are 3 tenets as per Citrix. First is obviously anytime, anywhere, the cliche that we have heard. But more importantly now, for the customers, how do they make it possible, right? Which is the second tenet, which is empowering workloads wherever they are, right? We all know that based on IDC Gartner, which research paper you read, that 52% of the applications in corporate environment today are not managed by the CIO organization, right? So now we as partners to those customers need to come out with technology where if the departmental head goes for a SaaS application, how will it get secured without even CIO knowing, right? That SaaS application the company has signed up for. Application which is scaled up in a specific environment to say there are X number of users from Bombay who will hit it, right? We have development center in Bombay, and we have sales office in Bangalore, or we have something in Korea, and we have localization office in China. But now with users anywhere, right? As an example, suddenly all our employees in Ukraine started working from Russia, right? Or wherever they belong to. And how would the application delivery infrastructure in the backend would shape up to that to give the similar experience, right? Which is really the second pillar. And third pillar is all about creating insights, which is about how the work is happening for the CIO to know where the work is happening, right? Which applications are running pretty well, which applications are not running well, and things of that sort. So just to dovetail, I covered this. Empowering workloads, I specifically wanted to call out huge amount of work we are doing in hybrid cloud, right? Because applications are today in the corporate data center. Some of them are in the public workloads, and how do you make sure that you have seamless application delivery infrastructure that is securing your applications both in the corporate data center as well as hybrid. And then the third pillar, which is a very, very important pillar where we're focusing a lot, is around analytics, right? where the work is happening, which users are at risk. Because if the work has gone beyond the corporate firewall, how are you going to make sure that it is the same user, but now the user, as an example, is not doing moonlighting, right? Or using the same particular laptop for doing some other work that he or she is not supposed to do, right, as an example. Or look at mobile, right? Most of us have a personal profile, we have work profile, right? Making sure that personal and work profile are not conflicting with each other, and you can't upload, download information from personal profile to work profile and things of that sort, right? So over next one day that we are networking, please understand quite a lot of stuff that we are doing around analytics, right? Which is huge amount of R&D and work that will happen between Citrix and its customers moving forward, right? So that's the only thing about technology. I know Tejo is going to speak about technology, and I wanted to really speak about numbers in next two slides as to why we should be really excited about what Citrix is doing, right? and most of the current buzzword, when I really double click, zero trust, right? And when customers are saying, what are you doing in zero trust? I basically say, hold on, dear customer. Zero trust is what we started 30 years before, because VDI is the true zero trust, right? Because nothing is on the desktop laptop, nothing is left to the imagination or for playing for the users. Everything is controlled and in data center, right? And that's where through things like DAS and all of that, we are moving only now, right? So the first piece, if you really look at it, the market for SaaS, which is where we are completely focused now, is doubling from 700 billion to 1.3 trillion, and 64%. The number that's very relevant to Citrix, because with whatever TTU, trade and transition, that a big motion and focus of Citrix that you hear about, 85% of Citrix users are still on corporate data centers, right? In the next 3 to 4 years, much of this will move to the cloud, right? And that's basically the motion here. And we want to make sure that 95% of plus users of the traditional virtual computing, which is where we are double the market share of our nearest competitor, move to cloud, pretty fast. And that's where all of you have significant opportunity to do work with Citrix, right? So that's the install base. We are fully focused on that. We have specific programs to make sure that customers are encouraged. And you look at India, 1 year before when I was here, we did all our numbers in first 6 months, right? So when the quota came to us, we said, oh, nothing is going to happen, India customers won't move. And we hit the numbers in 6 months. And I hear that this year as well, the numbers are pretty similar, right? So customers are wanting to move to cloud pretty fast, and we have huge install base, right? Across APJ, we had 24,000 customers who can be migrated to cloud in next 3 years or so. Now this is a market which is where we'll completely get focused, DAS, right? Because as they say, 80% of new virtual desktops will get delivered through DAS, right? So if somebody is talking about Citrix and what is the growth potential of Citrix, I keep talking about this number, 253%, right? So there is a tremendous amount of growth that's going to happen. And whenever customers are confused, talking about virtual desktops, as I said, 80% of that will be DAS, right? And with our leading portfolio, we're going to be #1 player there, and lots of innovation is happening on that, including our partnership with Google, and then obviously subsequently Microsoft and others. #1 in this market. #2 in application delivery infrastructure, which is really how do you deliver applications seamlessly and securely, irrespective of where application sits, your own corporate data center or public clouds. That market is growing at 17%, right? And there is a huge amount of market outside of that for native application delivery workloads from the cloud, which unfortunately Citrix is not addressing as much today, because obviously the ELBs of AWS and Microsoft are getting sold along with the applications. But now customers are realizing that those native application delivery services are expensive, and in a hybrid cloud environment, you can't have a single console managing all 3 of them, and most customers have more than 2 public clouds, as we know, right, between AWS, Google, and Microsoft. And the feature set is not as rich, right? So that's the second big market that we are going to play. I'm sure some of you would have got early access to CADS, Citrix Application Delivery infrastructure as a service, right? Which is what we have introduced with AWS to start with, and soon replicating on Azure and Google. And our value proposition there is really multi-cloud, right? We are not going to fight with ELBs of individual clouds, which will come cheap. And over a period of time, customers have anyway realized that they can be cheap, when they look at the cost per month. But when they look at multi-cloud integration and things of that sort, and having different people to manage, it is very, very complex. And now any total cost of ownership exercise we do with customer on ADC as a service, we are coming out as winners, right? And then obviously, we all know that because of current supply chain constraints and all of that, customers are going to move to cloud much faster than ever before. Last slide, and then I will take good amount of questions that you may have in the time that I have, 9 more minutes remaining. And that's therefore, whatever I spoke about is reflected in all our financial results, right? And this is where you build on Citrix success, right, as partners. Look at some of these numbers here. H1 has been phenomenal globally, right? Q1 plus Q2 both. In fact, we are in Q3 and we measure something called the linearity of the business, right? Our intention typically is to do 50 to 55% of the business in first 2 months of the quarter, and this time we hit 56%, right? In last several quarters, we did not do like your business. Our business is hockey stick towards the month 3 or the quarter or the year end, right? So phenomenal amount of growth in YOY, paid subscriber growth, ARR, especially SaaS, which is where DaaS and all of these markets, as I talked about, fit in. 40% plus, and on the overall ARR, which is including Citrix VDI, plus networking, plus analytics, and all our portfolios like ShareFile and all of that, 10% plus growth in the ARR moving forward, in ARR in H1, right? So those are really the financial results, and obviously, if we keep our employees happy, they will keep our partners and customers happy, which has been a big focus for most corporates, and we seem to be doing extremely well there. Even in India, 2 years before, we got certified as Great Place to Work, and we got that renewed just about 6 months before. So India is also pretty much on the map there. Last but not the least, you are aware of all the programs that we do. Spark has been very, very successful, which is the program where if you come with an opportunity to us, we give you a preferential price. Drive, which is where you get backend rebates for doing POCs and getting engaged with customers to really have Citrix as a preferred partner as compared to any other competing platforms that might be getting evaluated. And then obviously SDF, which is a huge focus, right? Through which we can do a lot of joint marketing activities between your and your company and Citrix, right? So that's what I had. I think I'm on time. Last 5 minutes to take